Serena Williams' life story is one of the most inspiring tales of persistence, resilience, and triumph in modern sports history, a journey that began on the cracked public courts of Compton, California, and grew into a global phenomenon that redefined what was possible for women in athletics, especially women of color. Born on September 26, 1981, in Saginaw, Michigan, Serena Jamka Williams was the youngest of 5 daughters in the Williams household. Her parents, Richard Williams and Oracene Price, had a vision that went far beyond themselves. Richard, with no background in professional tennis, studied the sport relentlessly, reading books, watching videos, and drafting a 78-page plan to train his daughters to become world-class champions. To many, it sounded impossible, even laughable. To Richard, it was destiny. And for Serena, it was the seed of a dream that would carry her through years of hardship, doubt, and triumph. When the family moved to Compton, it was not the glamorous setting most people associate with budding tennis stars. Compton was known for crime, gangs, and poverty, not tennis courts and country clubs. Yet Richard saw something different, a proving ground, a place where his daughters would learn not just how to hit a ball but how to develop toughness, resilience, and grit. Serena grew up hitting balls on those cracked courts, often dodging broken glass and hearing the sounds of sirens in the background. For her, tennis was never just a game, it was survival. And that survival instinct, planted in her earliest years, would become the core of her greatness. From the very start, Serena was different. While Venus, her older sister, initially drew more attention with her early successes, Serena was quietly developing an intensity that set her apart. Her natural athleticism was undeniable, powerful serves, quick reflexes, and an instinctive ability to read the game. But more than physical gifts, it was her mindset that truly defined her. Even as a child, Serena believed she belonged on the biggest stages. When she spoke about being the best in the world, people dismissed it as childish fantasy. But to Serena, it was not fantasy, it was inevitable. That self-belief would become her greatest weapon. The early years were not easy. The family faced constant criticism. Many in the tennis world doubted Richard's unconventional methods and questioned whether 2 young black girls from Compton could ever succeed in a sport dominated by white athletes and entrenched traditions. They said tennis was a country club sport, reserved for the privileged, the elite. Serena and Venus were breaking barriers just by showing up. And the skepticism was relentless. Yet Serena thrived in this environment of doubt. Every no became fuel, every dismissal became motivation. Her father's mantra, that greatness is born out of struggle, echoed in her every swing. Serena Williams' first Grand Slam victory at the 1999 U.S. Open was more than just a title, it was a declaration of intent to the tennis world, and she followed it with a relentless drive that would reshape the sport for decades to come. The early 2000s were the years in which Serena began to truly dominate, stepping out from the shadow of her sister Venus and establishing herself as a force unlike any other. She combined raw power with athleticism, grace with aggression, and an unshakable self-belief that rattled even the most seasoned champions. Each match she played was more than just about tennis, it was a statement that she belonged not just among the greats of her generation, but among the greatest of all time. One of the defining periods of Serena's career came in 2002 and 2003 when she completed what became known as the Serena Slam, holding all 4 Grand Slam titles at once. This wasn't just dominance, it was history. She defeated her sister Venus in 4 consecutive Grand Slam finals, a testament not only to her skill but to the unique dynamic between the 2 siblings. To face your own sister on the biggest stages of the sport requires extraordinary mental strength, and Serena showed the world that family competition could exist without breaking the unbreakable bond of love. She had elevated her game to a level where she wasn't just winning tournaments, she was redefining what it meant to be a champion. Yet with success came challenges. Serena was constantly scrutinized, criticized, and judged more harshly than her male counterparts. Commentators questioned her physique, her on-court expressions, even her fashion choices. The world of tennis, steeped in tradition, often struggled to embrace her boldness, her unapologetic presence, and her refusal to conform. Serena did not try to fit into the mold that tennis had built, she shattered it. She wore what she wanted, spoke her mind, and carried herself with an authenticity that was both refreshing and disruptive. This resistance from critics might have broken others, but for Serena, it was gasoline on the fire. She thrived in proving people wrong, turning criticism into courage and doubt into dominance. Her journey was not without setbacks. Injuries haunted her throughout her career, testing her patience and perseverance. In 2003, after winning Wimbledon, she suffered a knee injury that kept her out of the game for months. Many wondered if she would ever return to her peak form. Yet Serena had already proven she was no ordinary athlete. Each time her body faltered, her spirit carried her forward. She came back stronger, hungrier, and more determined than before. Her comebacks became legendary, stories of resilience that inspired millions around the world. The mid-2000s also saw new rivals emerge. Players like Justine Henin, Maria Sharapova, and Kim Clijsters rose to challenge her dominance. Serena Williams' rise to greatness was not just about talent, it was about the extraordinary resilience she carried within her, molded by the challenges of her childhood and the relentless determination of her parents, Richard and Oracene. Growing up in Compton, California, an area surrounded by crime, violence, and limited opportunities, Serena and her sister Venus learned early on that their journey would be unlike anyone else's. Their father, Richard Williams, was a man of vision and unshakable belief. Long before Serena picked up a racket, Richard had written a 78-page plan outlining how his daughters would become the greatest tennis players in the world. The world mocked him, laughed at him, and doubted him, but he stood unshaken. While others saw the dangerous streets of Compton, Richard saw a training ground that would forge resilience, mental toughness, and fearlessness in his daughters. Serena absorbed that energy from her father. Every rejection, every insult, and every limitation was fuel for her spirit. From a young age, she was different. She wasn't just playing tennis, she was learning to survive, to fight, and to conquer. The courts they practiced on were cracked and old, but to Serena, they were the foundation of her empire. Every serve she practiced in that environment was not just a tennis move, it was a strike against the idea that she could not rise from where she came from. Her journey was filled with struggles beyond the court. Serena was often underestimated because of her background, her physique, and the fact that she didn't fit the mold of what many thought a tennis champion should look like. She faced racism, criticism about her appearance, and constant comparisons to her sister Venus. But instead of breaking her, these challenges sharpened her into an unstoppable force. She carried herself with confidence, often called arrogance by critics, but in truth, it was self-belief, the kind that comes from knowing the world doesn't expect you to succeed, and you have to believe for yourself. As a teenager stepping onto international courts, Serena carried not just her racket, but also the weight of her family's sacrifices, her father's vision, and the unspoken duty to prove that greatness could rise from anywhere. Every point she played was symbolic. Every victory she won was a triumph not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever been told they were not enough. Serena's breakthrough moment came in 1999, when she won her first Grand Slam at the US Open at just 17 years old. She was fierce, determined, and unshakable, defeating legends who had years more experience. That victory was not just a title, it was a statement. It said to the world, Serena Williams had arrived, and she wasn't here to participate, she was here to dominate. As Serena Williams' career gained momentum in the early 2000s, the world began to realize that she was not just a talented athlete, but a phenomenon that would change the very culture of tennis forever. Alongside her sister Venus, Serena entered tournaments dominated by players who had grown up with wealth, access to elite facilities, and the privilege of being welcomed into the tennis establishment. Serena did not come from that world, she came from a place where people told her she didn't belong. Yet every time she walked onto the court, she carried with her the unshakable belief instilled by her father that she not only belonged, but she could dominate. What set Serena apart wasn't just her power or her athleticism, it was her mindset. She approached every match as though it were life or death, as though every serve was a chance to prove that nothing, no prejudice, no doubt, no expectation, could hold her back. Her rivalry with Venus became one of the most fascinating and emotional storylines in sports history. Two sisters, trained side by side on broken courts in Compton, now competing against each other in the most prestigious tournaments in the world. Their matches were not just battles of skill, but battles of love, sacrifice, and destiny. For Serena, defeating Venus was bittersweet. It meant overcoming her closest ally, her best friend, the person who understood her journey more than anyone else. Yet those matches also symbolized something bigger, proof that the Williams family, through discipline, faith, and resilience, had conquered a world that once rejected them. Each time Serena and Venus stood across the net from one another, they were showing millions of young dreamers what was possible if you refused to give up. But Serena's dominance didn't come without resistance. The tennis world, steeped in tradition, often criticized her for being too strong, too emotional, or too different. She was judged harshly for showing passion on the court, for celebrating victories with intensity, for wearing outfits that challenged the norms of the sport. While others saw defiance, Serena saw authenticity. She refused to conform, because she understood something powerful: if you change yourself to fit in, you lose the very essence that makes you extraordinary. Serena embraced her identity unapologetically, and in doing so, she inspired millions to embrace theirs. Her victories became more than points on a scoreboard, they were cultural moments, breaking barriers for women, for black athletes, and for anyone who had ever been underestimated. By the mid-2000s, Serena had cemented herself as one of the greatest players in the world, but her career was far from smooth. Injuries plagued her body, forcing her to step away from the game for long stretches. There were moments when critics declared her finished, when commentators suggested she had already peaked, when whispers of retirement began to spread.